Let's try that now. Oh, now it seems to be working. Well, this is freaking annoying as shit. This is freaking annoying as shit. So, I was just rambling on about what I was doing, and I didn't do any good. I didn't change any of the settings, and I didn't unplug anything. Just for some reason, it wanted to just kind of freak out. Now I see that. Okay, so anyways, let's start over again. So, um, so these are the fast blade that I completed, and I'm really happy with the coloration that came in of the skin, and they turned out really well as far as the shades of the skin. And we need to go ahead and put these guys do the basing so that in the morning we can paint it, because we need to. Yeah, I didn't realize it wasn't working. Yeah, you know, the thing was, is it was nothing was disconnected, and nothing. I had to switch some other setting that I never have to switch. I don't know. That's what happens when you use these free programs. Yeah, the marvels of computer. That's why I do this, okay? Because I'm not going to wake up one day and I don't know how to paint. Well, you know, there'll be a big pile of drool, and, you know, if I wake up one day and don't know how to paint, guess what? On that same day, I no longer have to go to work because I'm a dribbling idiot. Hey, there's a good part and there's a bad part of that. Yeah, I hate that. But I think that's one of those things is when you work with these free programs, they're not perfect. That's why I get disconnected the other day. You know, I don't know. Anyways, if I get disconnected and you still haven't had enough of me, then wait a few minutes. I'll be back on because I'm not going to stop tonight until I'm done with these guys. So that's the plan. So here's the Liquitex that we're using, which of course is in high demand now, and hopefully it's not the pandemic that caused them to not be available. Hopefully that's the reason why, and not that Liquitex discontinued it, because I really don't not looking forward to finding another material that I'm happy with. I know Vallejo and other people make stuff like this, but I like my basing to stay consistent. Where is my tool that is a little, here it is. And so we don't forget, let's grab our rocks, because we're going to have some of these rocks here to put on here. Okay. Now we got to try to not be extra wasteful, because seeing how this stuff is difficult to come by. Let's just scrape this extra stuff we have off. Because we're going to use this to apply it on here. But I had to do this off camera. I needed to spray this, and I didn't have time to get back on the camera a couple days ago. And like last night, I wasn't able to do anything. I think I went to bed like at 9:15 or something stupid like that. Didn't get started until late, and by that time it was just too late. I am not a night person. So on Friday night, there's no good part about becoming a driveling idiot. We have enough of those. Yeah. I don't like technology shit because they change it constantly. You know, why read the manual on your phone? By the time you figure it out, they'll just come up with another phone. Yours will die. Well, actually, I've had pretty good luck with phones, but... All right, let's close this up because we probably could use a little bit more than that. There's a place online that actually supposedly had this in stock, and it was on sale, which I didn't care if it was on sale. I wanted it to be for sale. James Simpson, welcome. And, you know, they said they had it in stock, and of course their inventory was wrong. And then the lady emailed me and said, sorry, we're not going to have it due to the pandemic until like at least the restock until the 17th. I was like, well, that's fine. I'll take it when you can give it to me because it's not like I'm out. Because I had ordered 4 of these. So, and I probably should order more, but I think unopened it pretty much is going to last 10 years or something like that. It's not gonna go bad anytime soon. But when the first 9 armies I did a different basing method, and I hate it because I have 2 options. I have to either rebase the army, which I don't want to do, or I can't paint them the old way. The stuff, well, it doesn't look as good, and I'm not as happy with it. Let's put it that way. Or replace other units with for the 3.0 version of the army, base them differently. With the new basing method. I'm not happy with that either. So I've just kind of ignored them. The first 9 or so armies that I have is in 2009, I think, when I changed to the current using this material. It's a lot less work using this because it's already pre-mixed. I don't have to get Elmer's glue and natural sand, and that's just another step. This comes already pre-made, and it's got better definition. It's more, it's rockier. It shows more of what the terrain is. So I've been really happy with it. But when I picked this stuff up, I found that at a Michael's store, which here in the U.S. that's a craft type of store, and I bought it. I just bought it on a whim. I like Liquitex products, and I bought it on a whim. I'm really happy with it, and I went and bought more. And the next time, was happy with it as well. And then the third time I went, they no longer carried it in the store. I had to, I think, Amazon it. Then the time after that, because I bought it 4 or 5 times, the time after that, you couldn't get it on Amazon either. I think I had to get it through a supply house. I think I got it through Dick Blick. I could be wrong, but now you can. Now it's not available anywhere. They're just out of stock, and hopefully it's not. They discontinued it because you never know. So hopefully that's not the case. If it is, I'm gonna make sure I don't run out of this stuff and leave some for some of these other armies, or some of these other armies that I may want to build more stands for them, and then just find an alternative material. I'm sure I could find something, but I really didn't want to. I didn't really want to have to go there. Always changing shit. Works fine. Stop changing things. So we've got these 5 stands to base, and then we'll have a stand of solid auxilia to paint, and a chariot to paint. And I got about a week to do it, so it's going to be close. I may not be able to get there. I may be short the chariot or something like that, but I really would like to get it done, because when I get done with these games that we're going to do next weekend, I want to move on and start working on my next army. I don't want to still have these guys to do, because these guys are going to get played next weekend. And I'm not opposed to playing an unfinished army, but when you play an unfinished army, especially if they do well, actually, especially if they do bad, you're like, I don't want to finish playing that army. They suck. So, we'll make it. We're not going to game on Monday night. That's another 3 hours or so I can do. We'll get there. We'll either get there or we won't, So, I'm going to leave the chariot for last, though. That'll be my incentive to knock them out, because the chariot will be cool looking. I've done a couple chariots before, and they were a hoot to do. So this stuff was supposed to, this should dry overnight. 6-8 hours, something like that. And then we should be able to paint it in the morning. And painting these 5 stands is actually going to take a lot longer than you think it would. I may not be able to do it in the painting session in the morning. Going to have a shorter painting session tomorrow than we normally have. I got to go get my windows tinted on my car. So that's happening at 9. So I'm not going to be able to finish all the basing, probably. But we should have a full one on Sunday. But Sunday I need to be working on some solid auxilia. Hopefully knocking out, let's see, 8 figures of solid auxilia. I think that if I can knock out painting the figures of the solid auxilia by the weekend, we should be good. And I think that's doable. So we'll see. We will see. Like I said, they'll either get done or they won't. When I was doing my Russian army, the last convention we had was Huracan 2019, and I painted my Russians for Huracan 2019 and didn't get around to finishing my knights, and my knights didn't get finished until earlier this year. So I kind of lost interest in finishing my Russians once I'd already played with them, and they won the tournament too. So I just used the knights as Ostrogoth knights instead, which, no, they're not the same, but they could be a lot worse. I could have used something, that really didn't go with them. But my incentive to finish army kind of went out the window once I'd already played with them and won the tournament. So I don't like to do that. I don't like to do that because it's kind of like, oh, well, I don't have to finish them now. But anyhow, so it goes. I'm actually getting a lot more armies done now that there was a lack of tournaments than when I was doing them. When they were having them all the time. So, okay, this is done except for the rocks. I'm going to come back and add the rocks later. So wipe off the edge here, as I do like the stands meshing up against each other. I don't like them separated by this little grit here in between them. And we're going to set this aside. And that's what it looks. It'll dry semi-clear, and then you can just paint it. Some people suggest, you just mix paint in it. The problem is this is semi-gloss, so I don't protect this at all. This doesn't get protected. The figures are as protected as they're going to be. Otherwise, man, I'm never finished. I don't need to find other methods to, you're going to miss your Monday night game. I am too. Well, we're playing, we normally do not play the Monday before a con, because the con we're going to play all day Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. Half a day Sunday. So, there'll be plenty of playing. So, yeah, no gaming on Monday. And no gaming the following Monday either, because we'd have just played the whole weekend, so. We'll have pictures, but I don't think we'll have it. I don't think we'll have a live feed. That's just a little too much chaos. It's going to be hot. It's going to be during the day. There's going to be ACs going. We're going to have somewhere between 4 to 6 players. It's going to be like a big game night that we normally have, is what we're expecting over 3 days. So, shouldn't be too bad. Sometimes we go to the show and we only have 4 people in a tournament. So, some people won't be able to make it because they're going to the show. But then some other people that are here in town wouldn't have gone to the show anyway. So, it's going to be kind of a wash. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. In the spring we'll make other arrangements. So we won't get into this mess like we did this time. But yes, this army is for a DBA game. Yes, for a DBA tournament. I'm going to run them, I think, in 3 tournaments. I think I'm going to run these guys in the Bronze Age Beatdown. I'm going to run them in the Auxilia tournament, and I'm on Sunday, and I'm going to run them in. I think I'm going to run them in Blind General as well. That's what the plan is. So we'll see. I spent all this time painting. I might as well paint. I might as well play them. Believe it or not, I'm not that excited to play them. I know that may sound strange to some of you, but I've looked at these guys for a couple 100 hours. I'm tired of looking at them. Should just put them on eBay, right, and be done with them. Oh man. I'm going to finally get a real game in. Going to Canada for 3 weeks in October, and the friends are preparing some games. I know, because you can't play war games in Germany. There's nobody in Germany that plays DVA? We had some Canadian guys that came down for Historicon. There were some nice folks. There were some real nice folks. So, I'm not sure they're coming down this year. They moved Historicon. I don't think that they're coming down. They got a lot of restrictions up there. Hopefully you don't get to go to a place in Canada that's all like locked down crazy. And you can't even find toilet paper. Let me know if I need to mail you some toilet paper. It's the toilet paper apocalypse. I was all set up for the zombie apocalypse, not the toilet paper apocalypse. Stuff's drying up pretty quick. I might have gotten stuff that was really old. Canada. I'm thinking about going to Canada during the fall. I don't want to go somewhere with a lot of restrictions. When I'm on vacation, like, I want to forget about all the nonsense that's going on each day. Not, relive it. Like, pay to relive it. Like, no. I'm good. I'm good. We'll go to those places when we're back to normal, if that ever happens. Better move this to somewhere that's a little different. There we go. Nobody close enough. I'd drive an hour each way. Certainly you have a German army, right? I mean, I have a German army, and I'm not even German. No, I don't like playing my ancestors. It's too personal. It's like I feel like I gotta win, If it's people I'm not related to, I'm like, so they lose again. Who cares? Your group is getting into DVA. Play a great deal of bolt action and saga. Just finished my Polybian Romans today, starting later Carthage now. Second Punic War. Buddy wants to play Greeks. All those are good choices. That's definitely my suggestion. If you never played DBA and you don't know what armies to build Polybian Roman and Carthage. Everybody knows about those guys. Greeks. I used to love Greeks. The Greek stuff in, what would have been, 6th grade when we did that? Yeah. Love those Corinthian helmets. I think most wargamers are that way too. If you're going to paint stuff, you want to paint things you think are cool. Like, these guys aren't cool looking. They're just half naked dudes that are, nondescript kind of desert invaders. You know, there's nothing exciting about these guys. You know, it's not like they've got Corinthian helmets or they're knights with heraldry or anything like that, you know. You should be presenting it in within a week. I have to play my Eastern Franks against your Italian Lombards. That's a good matchup. That's a good matchup. Henry the Lion. Actually, Henry the Lion actually may not be a Frankish list. He must be really early German. I forget where the cutoff is in there. I think he's really early German. Because I think the Frankish list ends in 1106. I don't know why it sticks in my mind, but... So I went and I had to update my stats on my computer because there were several games I hadn't logged yet. And I keep track of all my wins and losses just for yucks and for egging people on. And, you know, I wanted to make sure that all the last couple games I had played were logged into the system. I think like the last 9 or so games weren't on there. And I double checked my numbers on my Hungarians, and sure enough, they're 3-11. Those poor bastards. I have no idea why they have such a bad. There's nothing wrong with that army. They just, I guess I've just rolled really poorly with them. But, oh well. They're not in Turk territory, but, you know, can't believe the Turks actually won a battle the other night. I should have won the 2 that I lost and lost the 1 that I won, but, you know, sometimes when you have an army that's crummier, you know you got to bring your A game, you know, and sometimes you just sit back on your laurels a little bit and go, okay, well, all I got to do is just sit there and shoot them, and then, you know, you give away the, I don't know. Sometimes when you know you gotta try a little harder, you're more successful, but a lot of it depends what the pip gods do, and I don't mean by combat. I'm talking about just can your army even react to the enemy, or is it really slow and moving? That's usually a bigger problem than the actual combat dice. All right, let's get this guy. Let's get this off of his foot. Well, I don't know why the Hungarians are in such a slump. Well, they didn't lose. That's the score of I have done with that army. So before I ever built the Hungarians, I had played 4 games with them, and they had won 1 of the 4. So they already started with a 1-3 before I built them. You know, and you got to do that to be fair, because otherwise, you know, you can't just take. You got to take the bad with the good. So, likewise, if I go and build my Athenian army, they're already 12-2. I've never even played them. So, I mean, that's what I should do. Find armies I already have a winning record with them and build those. Now that I'm committed, I'll probably do the game tomorrow. I want to do a presentation on terrain. I've been working on stuff for the Franks and Lombards game. You know, the thing about terrain is once you build one thing, you get to build upon it. You know, you build an army, you build the Franks, and you only are going to use the Franks when the Franks are out there. If you build a hill, you get to use it with all kinds of armies. And I was very hesitant to build terrain for a long time. And then I got tired of looking at my stuff. Honestly, the videos are, like, if I'm going to film them, I want them to look better, you know. I mean, I'm enticed by, you know, games that look better. You know, you look at all those games that are in War Games Illustrated. Actually, no, I don't even know if War Games Illustrated is anymore. But, you know, those wargaming magazines. And the stuff's in there just makes you salivate. Like, man, I don't even care about this period. But, Man, I love those figures. I could get into that, and that's the appeal, is the whole overall look, the moving diorama, the moving history lesson. At least that's what it is for me. So, okay, 2 bases down. Yeah, this takes a while, but you only have to do it once. Studio WGS, what's the army you've had the least amount of play? That is a superb question. How large is your group? We have 6. Try to get more interested. It's about 6. It's about 6. Consistently, Mitch and myself. Scott's probably the number 3 guy. Luke used to come all the time until he moved out of town. Joe comes pretty frequently. What's that? 4, 5? I can't count anymore. And then Marty comes once a week, sometimes with his sons. That's 6, 7. The problem with more people is we need a bigger space. And, So let's get to Studio WGS's question. What is the army that I have the least amount of play? All right. Well, I can't show you this chart because it's freaking huge, but I think I figured it out. I've got 35 armies done for DBA. Of course, there's some armies that I use some of the troops carry over. Like, for instance, my medieval German C and D have a lot of common units. But I still count those as two separate armies. So let's take a look at this. Oh, and I sent myself the latest version, but not this one. Okay, well, it'll be close enough. What is the army that I have the least amount of games in? Is that right? Courage? Courage is definitely the least amount of games in. That's book 325C. I love them. They look great. I mean, I've got 5 games in with them, and they're 1 in 4. It's a lot of warband and a lot of knights, so things can just go south in a heartbeat. That's 5 games in with them. Oh, I take that back. They're not the lowest army I have the least amount of games in. My Spanish are. My damn near Renaissance Spanish. That's not the official term of them. It's book 468F. It's basically like early Italian War Spanish. They're 1 and 2. I played 3 games with them. And the one that's a little earlier than that, the one that ends in, I want to say it ends in 1503, something like that. I'm 9 and 8 with those guys. I played that version a little bit more. But my Courage are 1 and 4. So right there at the bottom. 8 games. Next army that has 8 games in is my Pope, the Papal army that I just finished. Only got 8 games in then. They're 4 and 4. What else do I not have a lot of games in? There's 11 games in. My early Burgundians are 6 and 0. They've never lost a game. I built the early Burgundians and the Burgundian Ordnance together. The Burgundian Ordnance are 6 and 3, and the early Burgundians are 6 and 0. They've never lost a game. Now, I've had to earn every single one of their wins because they were difficult freaking games. What else? What else has very few games? My medieval Irish are 8 and 2. Yeah, they're ass kickers. But most of these, I would say, are in matchups that were fairly even. Like, for instance, I always like to say my Numidians are my nemesis army. Well, yeah, I have a hard time beating Numidians with armies that you would look on paper they would be a fair fight against. It's not like they kick the Hungarians' butt or anything. Or Burgundians would just take them out to eat. They haven't met each other because it would be totally one-sided. So like in Wimp Wars and stuff like that. I mean, my Armenians are ones that have stopped the Numidians. And other than that, the Numidians have basically run over everybody. Anytime I encounter the Numidians, I lose. I don't know what it is, but again, we're not talking about open army situations. Nobody's going to bring the Numidians to an open, and if they did, they would get destroyed. I'm talking about like a Wimp Wars or a Saloy Silliness, those kind of theme type things. My early Russians are 9 and 3. That's not too bad. What else? My French Ordnance B. So the French that are in the Italian Wars, they're 5-7. That's only 12 games in them. They have no. They have like one shooter. I do a lot better with armies that have shooters. Somebody I saw posted one time that bow aren't very good, and I'm like, well, you don't know what the hell you're doing, because I love bow. I mean, I don't want every unit to be a bow. I don't want to have 7 or 8 bow in the army, but 4, sure, I'll take 4 every time. What else has low numbers? Early Russians, Southern Sung are 8-7, Northern Sung are 4-9. Those high aggression armies. I don't do well with high aggression armies. I don't. And I think that I think aggression is huge. It's I think too dominant. It's way too dominant in the game, because it's not that the defender still gets to roll where things fall, but he gets to pick what kind of terrain to put down. So like if you're like the Turks and you win terrain, you just don't put a lot of terrain down. You don't have to. It's not like you're going to be fighting in a forest. So. If you don't want to. My medieval Germans D list, they're 7-4. My C list I've played a lot. They're 41-21. I've played those guys a lot. I've had them a long time also. Yeah, the army I've played the most is definitely the Armenians. I'm 48-29 with them. But again, I haven't been using them in open settings. It's not like, oh, we'll just bring your Armenians and you can wipe the floor against, medieval French. No, that's in Wimp War battles and things that are somewhat balanced against their enemies, that kind of thing. Rajputs have had them a long time, 39-35. That's, almost 90 games, almost 80 games with them. They're pretty durable. Medieval Norwegians. I can't believe I've played 34-26 with those guys. So, let's go back to this one here. I was looking at the Aztecs. Lots of hordes. Have we ever played them? Aztecs are crazy awesome. They can lose half their army. So your hordes are expendable. You could lose 6 elements, and it doesn't matter. Now, you're giving a lot of frontage. It's not like, well, okay, they don't matter because eventually your other guys are going to be encircled, but, that kind of thing. So, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 armies that are losers. In other words, I have a losing record with them. And that's the later Hungarians, the Courage, Northern Sung, French Ordnance B, later Spanish F, Ottoman Turks, post-Mongol Samurai, which are not 3.0 converted. My Tang Chinese are barely a losing score. My Fanatic Berbers are barely a losing score, 21-22. And my Feudal Spanish at one point were like 4-25. And I've fought them back to 20-29. So there is hope that they may be able to turn that thing around one of these days. But, that's the only thing. I don't want to spend a lot of time on an army and then they're losers. I don't care about winning or losing a game, but, it kind of feels bad to spend all that time painting an army and they suck. But yeah, the Aztecs are pretty good. Pretty good. We had there was an epic battle one time that we played it at one of the tournaments. I mean, it used it as a match pair, and it was Aztecs versus Incas. And that thing was a riot. That thing was a riot. So Luke has an Aztec army, and I've got all of the Spanish to do the conquistadors. I've got all the Spanish elements to do the conquistador elements, which is only 4. It's like it's a Saloy or a crossbow, a knight general, an artillery piece, and a solid blade. And then the other 8 elements are Indian allies or Tlaxcalans. So at some point I'll get around to doing them. But They're not next. Old Dracula's next. That's what the plan is. And then we're probably going to jump on the Byzantine bandwagon. We put that thing off way too long. And then who knows where we go from there. So I have a feeling that Byzantines are not going to do well. There are a lot of cavalry and not much of anything else. But the Ostrogoths are also a lot of mounted and nothing else, so they should be good fights between each other. That's what I'm thinking, anyways. But who knows? By the time we get done with the Wallachian army, I may go in a different direction and not do the Byzantines, but that's what I should do next. So our group doesn't really have any, and it's kind of unexcusable. And I've got the troops to do them. I got the figures. It's not just a matter of making commitment, painting an army, and just not jump around to 50 different things. Just take your time thinking about what you're going to do next, and when you do it, and you don't get sidetracked and start working on other stuff. So. Studio, I don't know if you're still on, but one of the things your video reminded me of the other day. Studio WGS does all kinds of hobby videos, and he's got some ones that he's done painting, and they're very relaxing to watch and really interesting to see what he has to say. He's all the way on the other side of the world. He's all the way on the other side of the world where most of the people live on this earth. And we're gonna do a warband theme game that's going to be called Battle of the Bands, and of course the trick is going to be everybody has to wear a band shirt. We'll give them some kind of a incentive to do that, like you get one free reroll or something like that if you're wearing one of those. If you show up in your normal gear, you don't get anything. So we'll see. We should do that sometime in the future. I actually don't have any band shirts. I'm not opposed to getting any. There's certainly bands that I like. Not the new music they have now, but I'm kind of like Studio. That's kind of the stuff I like. I like that kind of stuff from the 80s. So I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the current situation, and he's like, well, yeah, kind of what we're going through now, with the fuel crisis and everything is kind of like the 70s. And he's like, well, I said, I hope you're right, because that means the 80s are next, and we can get back to the music being worth a damn. A good philosophy, not jumping around. Yeah, well, then you don't get anything done. You don't get anything accomplished. And this shit's drying out on me big time. Oh, well. Maybe I should find out what the equivalent Vallejo is, order some of that stuff, and on the next army try and doing that for the... the colors are going to be the same. It's just going to be the grittiness of it, and just see how I like it. Because I'm afraid that this stuff is gone bye-bye now. I'm afraid that they're going to shut down this... this stuff's made in France, believe it or not. Which is kind of cool. I get excited about anything that's not made where. So, people like to put down things that are French. I have no problem with the French personally. I'm just glad it's not made in China. That's all. So I welcome anything made anywhere else. So yeah, hopefully it's not something like what happened with a lot of the tester stuff. When Rust-Oleum bought testers, they discontinued a lot of their lines, which isn't a big deal, but it does mean that things are here today, gone tomorrow. I don't really want to have to rebase all of my art. I like that they have a consistent type of look. So I probably need to do that if it looks like these people can't come through and getting more of this material. So, you started using your Vallejo thinners and good results so far. Yeah. I wonder what part you thought was funny. But that's true. That's exactly what he said. Man, we're kind of living through the 70s right now. I said, that's awesome, because I've always wanted to be an adult in the 80s. I was a kid in the 80s. And I didn't really like being a kid. You know, being an adult's a lot cooler than being a kid. You can do whatever, you can get whatever you want whenever you want it. And, you know, not that I need more stuff, but, you know. That's the first thing out of my mouth. Awesome, the music's going to be better. You know, the reality is I had an older war game friend of mine. He was, I don't know, probably 15 years older than me, maybe even more than that. I think it was more than that. I was in my early 20s, and he was in his 40s, and I was just an apprentice. And he told me a really wise thing that he said that basically people like the music that was around when they were going through puberty. And I always remembered him. He probably told me that 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago. And yeah, about 30 years ago. And it stuck with me. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, you know? Because, you know, music right now is really not that important to me anymore. I mean, I'll occasionally listen to it. But, I mean, when I first started wargaming, I would listen to music. Now I'm, you know, I don't really, I mean, there's still stuff I like. But, you know, I usually listen to it when I'm driving. And it usually makes me drive faster more aggressively than I should. But it's just not that important anymore. You know, but yeah, but that he got a good yuck out of that one as well. Oh man, battle of the bands, music during puberty. True, yeah. Working a 24-hour shift in the morning. Have a good night, my friend. Okay, you too. Ooh, 24-hour shift. Oh dear God. I hope you get 48 off. 3 a.m. here. Time for bed. I'll see you all next time. Okay. Auf Wiedersehen. 3 a.m. Good Lord. I can't stay up till 3. I can wake up at 3. I can't stay up till 3. I wouldn't be worth a shit. And I used to be, you know, in my 20s, I'd stay up till 3. And then I'd sleep until like 11. And I'd much rather wake up super early and then go to bed early. I don't know if it's having a family and it's like, you got to get up early while they're asleep and do your hobby. I don't know if it's that. I think if I was single now, I'd probably still wake up early. I like getting up early. But you can't do both. You got to either wake up early and go to bed early, or wake up late and stay up late. You also think tastes change. Yeah, a little bit. I don't really care for vocals. I'm terrible about. I don't hear well. And so it's I have a really hard time understanding lyrics to begin with, and well, sometimes I just I like the melodies and stuff. I like listening to the kind of stuff that I used to listen to, but there's so much stuff on YouTube that's like, is it folk metal? There's a lot of stuff on there, and I like the melody and stuff of it. I couldn't care less about the lyrics and stuff like that. So that's definitely changed for me. I don't really care about that. But I find that what I do like listening to music is like if I'm working on like a car or something like that. I enjoy doing that. But painting, I would rather listen to somebody talking about the hobby, or, you know, kind of like what you guys are doing. I would much rather do that. I used to listen to talk radio, but I don't really care about current events and stuff like that. People complaining about, you know, normal stuff you deal with every time. I'd rather talk about fantasy stuff. So, you know, make-believe land. Take me away from the normal stuff. Yeah, I like to talk stuff because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know where it's going to go. It's not like, oh, we know how this song's going to go. Okay, here's the intermission part, and, you know, here's the bridge. Nah, you just never know what direction it's going to go in with the talk. You know, I think I'm going to have to intervene with myself and put some of these rocks down before some of this stuff is drying faster than it ever has. Let's get some of these rocks down here. All right, let's get an array of different things. All right, before it's too late. I'm not putting any colossal amount of thought in this. I'm just going to put some there. We're going to put a lighter color rock that decided to grow over here. Two flat ones and a bag of gravel. Nothing crazy. Let's go to this one. I just smush them in there and it stays in just, I don't know that I've lost a rock before. It's they hold in place pretty well, so. Where's my rocks at? Oh, look at the baby rock. Okay. This one that we just did. And for a little while, when I was painting my armies, I was actually trying to listen to music that was themed to what my army is. So, like my first DVA army, I listened to a lot of Spanish guitar, painting my feudal Spanish, a lot, and I did that for a little while, and then couldn't. There's not Amorite music, One guy blowing a camel bladder or something like that. Whatever the hell instruments they played. A swollen camel bladder. Let's put one over here. All right. Now we can go back to doing the basing on this other guy. It was looking like that was going to start going south, and it still had quite a bit of life in it. I don't think it would have been, if I waited till the end, it would have been a problem. But better safe than sorry. We don't need to do that again. So. All possible with the power of iced coffee. Everything's possible with iced coffee. All right. Let's see if we've got any life in this stuff left. Yeah, we do. Uh-oh. Pomfret, 8:30 a.m. Saturday here, painting Greek hoplites, but they're generic Hellenes, mercenaries for later Mediterranean wars. Putting some natives myself, they're still a few weeks out. Music helps, especially when I edit. I have speaking of edit, you make videos, so you'll know what I'm talking about with this. There is a lot of free music available to use in videos, but you literally could spend a week trying to find the perfect sound. And usually what I end up doing is, I don't want to rehash songs or tunes that I've used before, but I end up using most of the music that I use is what's included in my editor, because I don't have to worry about, okay, I can use this for free, but I can't put it on a monetized device, or if I do, I've got to pay royalty. It's just too much drama, I'm fine with just being anything. And I certainly don't want it taken down or getting in trouble and stuff like that, because once I edit a video, it's gone. I don't have it anywhere. It's not stored anywhere. It's all on I do all the filming and editing on my phone. I tried editing on the computer. It's a pain in the butt. It's a lot more complicated than I need it to be, because if you've never edited a video, you know what to do, okay? Because you've watched music, you've watched movies and programs, when, these words come in and these disappear and all that stuff. But, the editing programs on the computer are just way too complicated. They just take up too much time. So I don't mind filming videos, but I really want to get back to painting. I've got a lot of painting to do, so I don't want to get into some scenario where it's going to take. I need to put some more of this stuff on it. Where it's going to take me, I film a video and 3 days later the video comes out because I've done that much editing. Because I don't enjoy the editing process. I don't enjoy the crunching, the exporting process, which could take a long time. Even on computer. I did edit a couple videos on computer, and it's just, wasn't happy. I'm using an editor on my phone that I'm very happy with. It's exactly how it should be. Like you move you move it to here, start it here, fade here, all that kind of stuff. It's very easy to use, but it's limited. But you could spend a whole week just looking through music files to try to find something that fits the theme of whatever it is that you're doing. So when I was doing the Waterloo video, I realized the music came after the period, and yes, it was free. Yeah. I've only seen that movie one time. It's not my period. There's people that played Napoleonics when I first started wargaming. There were some folks that were probably 10 to 15 years older than we were when we started, and I don't know, they weren't a whole lot of fun to play games with, but they did Napoleonics, but they just weren't having a good time doing it. So I never got into it. I know they played a lot of American Civil War, and American Civil War I don't care for at all. Period. I'm not interested in playing that at all. Napoleonics, I don't mind playing Napoleonics, because it's different nations and stuff like that, but just never got into it. I was always a World War II guy. That's my theater. Even now, I still say I'm a World War II guy. World War II naval. Haven't done a lot of World War II aircraft, other than simulators way back in the day. But played a lot of computer games for World War II. I can get my World War II game out in computer games. I can, I don't have to produce any figures for that. But we did micro armor and naval stuff and all that kind of stuff. That's really what I enjoy. But it gets to the point where you know so much about it that it's going to take something really detailed to scratch your itch, or you're just not going to interested in playing it. Like, I got a friend of mine who's got a PhD in history, and his specialty was the Napoleonic Wars, and he admitted to me he does not play Napoleonic games because it doesn't feel right. He said, you just know too much about the period, and no matter what you're playing, it just feels like it just falls short. And maybe other people wouldn't understand, but I get it. I don't want to play a World War II game that's very vague. I want to, count rivets and, you encounter a Panzer III. Well, what is it? Is it a J or is it an L? And is it a J with the short 42 caliber 50 millimeter gun, or is it one of the ones that came later that had the full 60 caliber one? See what I mean? I count rivets and the shell hit. Well, what impact did it hit? You just get to the point where it's like it's either going to have that kind of detail and nothing's going to get done, or I just won't play it anymore. And I'm fine not playing anymore because I can always play close combat or something else like that to get my World War II itch. Welcome, Steve Gross. Can't wait for the Warlord games, Blood Red Skies Pacific. Oh, that's like a fighter game, right? I don't know. I can't get into games. I can't get into these games that the people that make the miniatures also make the rules. So that's still new to me. I know it's been going around for years, but when I started wargaming, people made rules or they made miniatures. You didn't do both. And at first glance, it seems like it'd be good that they do both, but it seems like the tendency is just to rush the rules to sell figures. Because every single game I have heard of that they have come out with recently is just filled with bugs, like they haven't play tested it a lot. And I don't know. And on the other hand, I can see why they're doing that, because they gotta try to stay afloat. But I never played Games Workshop stuff. I never did. And I came close to playing Games Workshop stuff, but there was 3 games that I wanted to get involved in, and they just pulled the I think it's 3. I don't remember what the third one is. Dark Future was like the Car Wars game. Like, oh, this is a cool game. I see it in White Dwarf magazine. Want to get involved in it? Oh, it's out of print. We don't support it anymore. What the, And then the other one was the fantasy naval game. What was it called? We're talking like 1991, 1992. I forget what it is. It's like a small... Anyways, they stopped supporting that. And, as somebody who's a slow painter, I'm not going to let somebody just say, well, nobody plays that anymore. There's no rules. Like, okay, well, then you owe me for the thousands of hours that I've spent painting this stuff. So, God, what was the name of that game? And there was one other one. I forget which one it is, but yeah, I'm not letting somebody make me waste my time painting all this stuff. Hey, it isn't a waste of time, but I don't need to be rebuilding all this. Like I've said, one day I may not play DBA. It may be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. Maybe we'll do our own version of DBA, but it's going to be these same armies. Because I got to think that way. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to produce any more stuff because I don't want to wake up one day and then all this stuff I used is no good anymore. Like, I'm fine producing, but I want to still have the stuff that I had before. It's not like I'm willing to start over. I'm not willing to do that anymore. I'm not going to, we don't do those anymore. Just that formula doesn't work for me personally. If it works for other people, that's cool. But Man of War, that's the one. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. It looked cool. Like you could have some really good laughs on that. You have noticed that everyone who creates a new line of figures seems to write rules for those used figures. If you've noted, the rules are usually lacking. Yeah. Man of War is also an awesome band. What's a good name for a band? Are they Portuguese? That'd be good. It was it's Portuguese Man of War. As opposed to their cousins, the Spanish ones. Oh, man. So, one of the DBA games themes that we ran at one of our tournaments was Mitch is like, hey, we need to do something that you have to have like at least five different units. And I'm like, oh, I already know what the name of it's going to be. It's going to be Five Finger Death Punch, not knowing there's an actually band named Five Finger Death Punch. Because I'm thinking of, some kind of Shaolin monk type of move, or something like that. But I didn't realize it was a band that, I've never heard of them. I've never even heard of them. I guess it sounds like a band name. Yeah, so that's what we call it. So now when I do a reference to that, I said, okay, and it has nothing to do with the band. I had no idea that there was a band named that. Stole my tournament name and made a band out of it. Yeah, Man of War. Dark Future. I always wanted to get Dark Future, and then Gaslands really kind of scratched the itch. I'm going to have to sit down and do some Gasland vehicles within the next year. I'm going to try to not spend 37 hours on each vehicle and have it look perfect. I think I'm just going to spray them black, add stuff to them, spray them black, and just dry brush and pick things out. And because I saw somebody that kind of did that, and I looked at his technique, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I could just unclench a little bit, right, and paint some vehicles that and do that, because we've got it's a fun game. It's not DBA, but it's a fun game. Managing what you roll on those dice certainly makes it interesting. And I don't really care for the fluff of the game, the background, the names of the teams, and all that stuff. It's just not. I wouldn't have done it that way. I wouldn't have done some Mars type. But, ultimately the theme can be whatever the hell you want it to be, right? But it's a fun game. It's a fun game, especially if Luke's playing. I like to call it, let's see what Luke's going to run into now. He really should have, the DMV, if they saw how he played that game, he really should have his driver's license revoked. He really makes some really poor choices. Back when we used to play driving games, we used to play a Formula One driving game. I forget which one it was, and we're talking like mid '90s. We would get up like at 6 a.m. We would watch the Formula One race, and then we would go race this track that we just watched. So, if it was, Hockenheim or whatever, we would go and we would watch Hockenheim, and then we would race Hockenheim that evening. And, we went through trial runs. You start with a stock car with a stock wing, and you take your time, and, you do 3 laps, and then you go and, lower your wing till you can't, till you can't handle it anymore, till you can't stay on the track, and then mess with your gear ratios and all that kind of stuff. It was a fun little process, and it was a way to participate in sports, which is, I never really got into sports because, just watching them, I don't see what the thrill that people get in just watching them. You're not participating, but if you're doing something like that, like you're doing your own race, and you can kind of see, oh, that's why that corner is a problem, or this, that, and the other, it's kind of fun. So we did that for a couple of years. And we had this saying that was coined: you can't crash fast enough to win. So, it doesn't matter if you're not slowing down for things and you're crashing all the time. It doesn't really matter how fast you are, if you're not staying on the track. So, you can't crash fast enough to win. I still remember that after all these years. Okay, that's 4. 5th one coming up. The 5th and final one. You got a Man of War video coming. Haha. The game, not the band. Yeah. I actually had a copy of the original 40K rules. The one that came in the real, I guess it was about this thick. And the binding would always come out. Of course, it was full color and everything. I don't know what it was about early Games Workshop binding, but it just seemed like every copy that we got in the States always would fall out. It doesn't make any sense because the book is high quality. It had good pictures in it and stuff like that, but it just wouldn't hold together. But I never figured out how to play the game. I did buy a unit of Imperial Guard I think like I saw them in some White Dwarf magazine and really liked the way they looked. They look kind of like Space Wehrmacht a little bit, and maybe that's what appealed me to paint them. I don't know. And I painted up a unit of them, and they were one of the first things I ever sold, as I never played the game. It's the only 28 millimeter figures I've ever painted, and I probably painted them around 1990, something like that. And of course, they didn't have any shading or anything like that. They're just, primitive by today's standards, and the standards that we had back then, where you couldn't compare things to these wizards that are available now on the internet that says, "Hey, look at this new thing," and you're like just in awe how they look. We didn't have that way back when, so they were one of the first things that I sold on eBay when I was trying to get rid of things that I wasn't ever going to use, and I was used as funds to build up some of my Vallejo paints. It's not like, I went and it's not like I sold all my hobby stuff and went and bought and had ice cream. It was used for other hobby stuff. I justified buying other hobby stuff with it. So that was the first stuff I got rid of, was those Imperial Space Marine. There was like 7 or 8 of them or whatever. I forget how many guys came in a pack. If 4 guys came in a pack, maybe I had 12. I don't know. Something like that. Got rid of those first. Then my Battletechs. I hadn't used the Battletechs in 15 years or something like that by that point. That was a fun game, but the computer game that they have now is just scratches that itch completely and then some. That game is spectacularly good. And feels just like the old, I call it board game, but we played it as a miniatures game. We played it with the miniatures and just substituted inches for hex ranges and had a ball with it. But that's back 1991, 1992. They came out with that clan stuff and just ruined it all. Again, another fluff background I didn't care for. But we were perfectly happy playing the 30-25 stuff. Played a fair number of that game. The bell curve die system, 2d6, like advanced squad leader and everything. I'm not a fan of the 2d6 system, where the average roll is 7. I'm not a fan of that. I didn't like bell curve in school, and I don't like the bell curve in games. Even though I've played a fair amount of Battletech and played a fair amount of squad leader. Not in a long time, but I have done that. And I remember when I first got into playing this DBA, and what do you mean it uses 1d6? That's stupid. That's not enough different probabilities. Because my background is mostly doing percentile games. That's my preference. We played a lot of Siegfried 4, a lot, and that's all percentile, and I got used to that. And it just makes sense. What are your chances of hitting something? 25%. That's a 2 or a 5. Roll under that. It just makes sense to what we're used to. So now this 1d6 system is, well, I guess I'm kind of used to that too. It's deceptively simple. You think, oh, this is just too simple. Yeah, well, on surface it looks like that, and then it isn't. And all kinds of variations can happen. Nice thing about a D6 type game is that I want dice that have, Roman numerals on them. They make them. I want dice that have, kanji things on them. They make all kinds of D6s, whereas they wouldn't make them, if you're looking for, a D10 or something like that with special type of themed or colors. Well, colors, they pretty much make everything, but you have the biggest variety with D6s over anything. So Almost done here. What time is it? Yeah, and then we're going to stop for the night because we'll be back on at 5-ish. Wake up at 5. Who knows when we'll actually be on, but hopefully this stuff will be dry. If not, we'll start working on a solid auxilia. We're going to work on something, so. Doug Doble, welcome. Early 90s when Napoleon's campaigns came out from Avalon Hill. Napoleon's Battles. I had that game. Great step forward in miniature gaming, in my honest opinion. I had it. I had the rules. And I actually had some Prussians from Battle Honors. I think I'd gotten 2 packs of Prussians and Prussian foot, 1813 Prussians, and some artillery. Spray primed them in white, and never finished them. Sold them unsold. Just couldn't get into it on my, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience playing Napoleonic stuff. I played it. I played DBN. If Napoleonics was my period, I don't think I'd like DBN. It's too generic. It seems like it's too generic for my taste. Even almost for my taste now, it's a little too generic. I just like this. I just like that you have the amount of units. I like having the 12 unit type thing. 10, 12, 15, that kind of units. Stands. It's easy to manage. But if I was a Napoleonic person, I definitely would want more detail, more flavor, more differences. Instead of line infantry being like line infantry. I'd want my Austrians and French be a little bit different. Doesn't matter if one was better than the other. Just make them a little different so you have to play the army differently. Napoleon's Battles. I had it too. The funny thing is I had it too, and Mitch had it also. Now, Mitch has, I think he says enough troops to do Leipzig, I think, what he said in Napoleon's Battles. All his stuff is set up for that. I played a couple of games back in the mid-90s. Don't remember anything about the rules. Don't remember anything on them. I played with them with Mitch, played a couple games with them. Yeah, I enjoyed them. I don't mind playing them. I just don't want to be the point guy trying to figure out how to play the game. I don't mind playing along, but I want a human there who's the main fellow that can just answer a question for me. I don't have to look through a rule book. I've kind of gotten burned out on that. I've burned too many brain cells trying to figure out rules in DBA. I don't want to figure them out in other rule sets. I want to just ask somebody. Right now, they're hooked on playing this game called Maurice by Sam Mustafa. They say it's really good. They say I'll like it. I'm not going to paint any stuff for it. I don't mind playing it, but he does have a ton of figures. He does. And he didn't paint a single damn one of them. Lazy bastard. He does. He has a lot of figures. He does. It's okay. I mean, I have a limited amount of time, so I can't just say, hey, let's paint. Well, the thing is that he has all the Napoleon's battle stuff we could ever need. Joel, who moved down from Illinois, he's a painter. He's got all his stuff for DBN, and he's got all the nations. So, I could play Napoleonic and never have to paint any. But I thought Maurice game is like 1700 stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to paint any Prussians. It's going to take me from doing this. And, I'd much rather paint. Boy, there's a lot of rocks on that stand. Well, they run over irregular ground. Whatever. It works fine. Most of them will just be covered anyways. So there's going to be just clumps and stuff on it. So, we didn't wipe down the edge of this. Like I said, it's concentrate. I can't just sit there and okay, well now I'm going to go work on a different rule set. Well, what if I hate it? What if I I'd rather just play it out. I don't have 300 or 400 hours to paint an army on. I'm not going to rush the army. I'm going to do it as best as I can. Otherwise, what's the point for me? At least what's the point for me, you know? Other people want to take shortcuts. That's fine. They can sleep at night. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing I could have done a better job. You know, I see people's stuff on the internet that I really, really like. I don't find it threatening. I just don't. When I see somebody's stuff that I like better than my own, and it happens, I find it empowering. Like, okay, I can do better. I can kick it up to the next level, you know? Some people are like, oh, I'll never paint that good. I'm giving up. I've heard people say that. I'm like, dude, you just have to be happy with what you do, you know? And it's just a trick. They've just been at it longer than you have. And I've said it before, I'm more of a painter than I am a gamer because I can always game on computer and never play this. Well, that's not going to happen, but, you know, I mean, I used to build models, and models are just a waste of time. You paint them, and then what do you do with them? They sit on a shelf. Here, at least, you get to move your little models around, make vroom vroom noises, or, you know, whatever. Okay, so this is what these guys look like. Now, in the morning, all this stuff will be happy dry. You can see some of it's starting to thin out here. Well, starting to thin out here. Actually, it looks totally different in person than it does on this on the screen. It's a lot, I don't know. It's just different. These look like they're definitely dry. It'll be semi-transparent, and then we'll just paint over it. And English uniform, dark sand, and one other color, green ochre. And that's, you know, the colors that I actually got it from a Flames and War suggestion for some desert basing. All right, studio, we'll see you maybe tomorrow morning if it's not too late for you. Go sell lots of product. Go make a video. Go wear a band shirt. We got to do that. We got to do Battle of the Bands with, you know. Got to do that. Sounds like fun. I like Warband. All kinds of crazy stuff can happen with Warband. I don't have any confidence in them, but crazy stuff can happen with Warband. They're just all over the place. You never know if they're going to produce or they're just going to be just sitting by the wayside. All right, I need to go get. I don't think I'm done. I think I can do a little bit more. I think we can do a little bit more. Let me go check with the other people and see if I can do a little bit more. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I haven't had enough. It's not even 10, and I'm still going to wake up at 5. Let's get a paint on. I know you guys want me to do the chariot, but I know better than that. I got to leave the chariot for last. I've got to earn it. What'll happen is if I do the chariot now, I'm going to spend so much time cogitating about how to paint it. And, but I've already thought about that, okay? Because the chariot, who cares what we do, right? As long as I don't go to sleep. So here is the horses that are on the chariot. So of course the problem is they've got these little tarps on them. So I'm like, well, what color? No, of course I have to move it the different way. What color to paint these little tarps on here? The little cloth things on here. See if we can find where the focal point is for this. There we go. So if you look at pictures of Amorites, there's a couple of paintings that come up from the Egyptian time period because they were contemporaries of the New Kingdom of Egypt. And they show these Amorite guys that are wearing these full dress gowns that are striped. Well, I have nobody in this army that is wearing something like that. This would be like high up guys. But that means there's somebody that was Amorite that wore striped garments. So that's what we're going to do with these guys. These are going to do the same colors. We're going to make these like these striped garment covers of these guys. So we'll have 2 striped horses. The chariot itself, I'm probably going to make it pretty bland looking. Probably going to do, it's not going to be really bright, but I don't know that for a fact. But the first thing we're going to do is when we go to paint, start working on the chariots, we'll do the horses first. Okay. And just work our way from there. And of course the crew is, where is he? Where's the main dude? The one guy with an iron helmet, not an iron helmet, a bronze helmet. Okay, he's riding in there, and with the guy with the reins. And the guy with the reins, I actually the other day drilled out his hands. So we'll be able to pass the reins through here. Which all I'm going to use is some brown thread that's not cotton. It's synthetic, so it won't fray as much. I did that with my Chinese chariots that I did earlier, and it worked just fine. So that's my plan with the chariot. So, and of course we've got a baggage element of camels too. We've got to get that baggage element. You know what? That's what we're going to do. Let's not work on the solid auxilia. We've got to base these guys anyways. This is going to be their camp / baggage element for collision course. So let's go ahead and base these guys in black because we've got to do that anyways. That's going to take some time to set before we can mess with that. All right. We didn't get any on us? Good. A brush we don't love very much. Let's see, because this stuff always seems to be harsh on the brush. This one will do. Alright, we could probably operate over here now. We'll leave that open just in case we need to get to some more of it. Oh yeah, we were going to epoxy the bottom of this. Well, maybe we can do it with this. Maybe we don't have to use epoxy. I don't want to mix up epoxy just for that. The legs on this guy broke a little bit. Let's drop some there. This is kind of a thicker super glue. And then I'll use some of this X-Acto knife. And then when we go to paint this, we'll paint this guy last. Give it some time to dry. All right. Now, I want to paint this guy black. I have no idea who makes these camels. They're definitely old school. I don't know if there's pictures of them online anywhere. This one is a tin soldier. I believe it's a tin soldier. I'm not sure who makes these other ones, but these are baggage camels. They're all one piece, and you can't even tell they're a camel. They're so loaded down with stuff on them, you know. So we're going to have 3 of these guys. They're going to be on a 40 by 40 stand. There's not going to be a handler on there. I don't want to put some ancient guy, and then I can't use them for my Arabs. So we want to kind of keep them a little bit nondescript for that. I'm just going to paint this guy all with this black primer. Not sure where I got these camels from. They were probably some grab bag or something or another. I don't mind having extra figures. You never know when they can come in handy, and here's an example of figures that, who knows, when I picked them up and they came in handy. Look, I'm getting paint all over myself. Yeah, not exactly my favorite thing. You get paint on yourself and you don't have it, and you go grab something else and you've carried paint over to that. So keep your painted things far away. Yeah, if I don't paint these camels, I'm going to end up copping out and not getting these guys done. So this is kind of a priority. So for those of you that normally join me on Saturday morning painting, I'll be on here, but I have to cut out a little earlier than normal. I got to go get windows tinted on my car. I've put off doing that for a few months now, and need to go ahead and knock that out. Can really only do stuff like that on the weekend. Way too busy to do it during the middle of the week. Okay, this guy looks painted. Done with him. Who were the Amorites? So apparently the Amorites were guys that, they're desert nomads. This is the Cliff Notes version. And if I get any details wrong, well, oh well. They were desert nomads that got tired of living in the desert and ended up raiding Mesopotamia and other places. Around the time of the New Kingdom Egyptian, and they set up dynasties that ended up becoming Babylonians and so forth. So they're the pre-Babylonian Babylonians, but they're desert nomads that got tired of living in the desert. And they set up different kingdoms, Assyrians and stuff like that. But they're prior to the traditional Babylonian period, prior to the traditional Assyrian period, when the Assyrians were taking everybody over. That was somewhere around 1,900, 800, 700 BC. And these guys are in the 1500 BC time period. So these guys are pretty early. One of the reasons I'm playing this army is we got a tournament coming up that's called Bronze Age Beatdown. So you can use any army, but it's got to be earlier than 1200 BC. So the collapse of the Minoans and stuff like that, it's got to be earlier than that. It's before Santorini blew up. So, you got New Kingdom Egyptians, Hittites, Trojans, the early Indian armies. There's still quite a few things to choose from. The reason I picked this army, my buddy Joe was building a third dynasty of army, which is the successor army of Sumerians. Some of the earliest armies on there. They're a later dynasty of Sumerians. And coincidentally, the people that took over that area after the Sumerians were the Amorites. And the spearmen in his army, he used these figures that are called Amorite Spearmen. And it's this figure right here, and I love them. I loved how this figure looked. Let's see if I can find a place where it is. It's just really basic. He's got like a reed type of helmet, and he's got some kind of a plume, and a shield, and their bare chest. I don't know. They look cool. I like the way they looked. So I'm like, okay, well, what army makes those spearmen? Because I wouldn't mind building a Book 1 army with those spearmen, and well, they're Amorite spearmen. So how about the Amorites? And I looked into further, and I liked the troop composition of the Amorite army, and nobody else had them, and that's what I did. Back when cats were first domesticated. Is that it? They haven't been domesticated earlier than that? Cats got domesticated after horses? Dogs? I don't know. Be kind of fun to do a skirmish game where you got Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon and I guess the super glue didn't dry completely. That's why you use a shitty brush. No, we'll just fire you. Another Chinese brush, no good. Hey, we don't have time to wait all day for this. Chinese takey outie. Saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths, and that could be kind of cool. You could do some crazy stuff on there. A couple years ago, I was painting some dinosaurs, plastic dinosaurs, and they turned out pretty well. I got some rules to play with them. I've always thought it'd be cool to do a dinosaur game. You know, everybody plays a dinosaur kind of thing. So, you know, you've got a predator and, you know, a T-Rex, and somebody runs some raptors, and you got a mama stegosaurus and her baby trying to get across the board, and, you know, brontosaurus trying to get to a water source and not stumble and fall on somebody. I mean, you could just kind of crazy. You get to make dinosaur noises. There's actually several sets of rules on there, and I've actually painted a stegosaurus. They're really inexpensive if you buy the toys, and you got to get the scale just kind of close. Doesn't have to be exactly right, but they paint up really well, actually. But, you know, I got one dinosaur done and, you know, ran out of steam. I got to go back to painting DBA stuff. Amorites were country folk who went big time and threatened the city-states of Syria, Palestine, all the way to Mesopotamia. There you go. Yep. That's probably in the Old Testament. I don't know. I don't know jack shit about the Old Testament. I'll be honest with you. But I like the troop composition. I like the figures. It's an army I've never seen anybody build. And, yeah, that's it. And I do like the desert, the way the desert basing looks. I think it makes the armies look really, really cool. Okay. All right, the camels are all based in black now. So whenever they dry at some later point in the next week or so, we can just start painting those guys up. Because that actually will double as a camp. So it'll be the camp, it'll be the baggage element. A camp can actually be this size. It can be 40 by 20, which is ridiculously small for camp. Most of my camps are like this size. What's it, 60 by 80, I think? This is a camp size I like, but, you know, there's no point in making a camp for the Amorites and then making a baggage for the Amorites when I can just do one and it does both, you know. Battletech was what got into for a while. Loved the books and the source books, so naturally got the mechs. Have you played the computer game? It came out like 2 years ago, whatever. made by a company called Harebrained Schemes, I believe. It is incredibly good game. It is superb. You run like a mercenary company. You can design the paint schemes. You can name your characters. They get experience. You build your mechs. You can capture. You win the battle and you capture a certain amount of salvage. Find better medium lasers and put them in there. And obviously, if you lose the mech, you lose the stuff that's in there. But it's a great freaking game. It's a great freaking game. It's turn based, so you're not like it's not a real time thing where you're running around like a maniac. Some people like those real time strategy games. I've played them before. It's too much like work. It's a great freaking game. It was on. I picked it up 3-4 weeks ago. It was on sale for on Steam for I think $9.99. And they have several expansions. I'm like, let me just get the first one, enjoy the first one, and then if I want more, I can get that. But it's all in the 30-25 period. I heard there's some mod that 30-62 or something like that where you have clan weaponry. But honestly, when they brought the clan stuff in, it just kind of, I didn't care for it, But yeah, that's a great freaking game. Yeah, I figured, okay, well, I'll throw $10 away. It was worth $10, and oh yeah, it's definitely. If you love the books, oh yeah, that's right down your alley. That's right. That game's spectacular. Really, really good. And you've got to keep taking jobs, or it costs a certain amount of money to keep everything running, and it sounds really complicated, but it isn't. I just jumped in, and as soon as I jumped in there, I'm like, oh, I mean, I hadn't played BattleTech in 20 years, and I knew, I knew what it was. But you can go in there, you build an awesome 80-ton mech, and it's got huge heat problems. You're like, all right, I'm tired of this huge heat problems. Let's take a PPC out and add more heat sinks, or armor them up and put large lasers instead of the PPCs to keep his heat down. There's all kinds of different ways you can work these things in. If you're into the BattleTech lore, I highly recommend that game. It's really really cool. It's really really cool. I can't say enough about it. I mean, it'll get old because you don't have other people. But I guess you could play. You're supposed to be able to play a multiplayer, but I don't see why you couldn't just play with 3 other people, and then you make a decision what you're going to go on. When you get down there, you take turns moving your mech on the computer, and you fight. It's very challenging, I think. And I feel like I know what I'm doing, and it's still pretty challenging. So that's always good. Sometimes it's hard to find a game where you're playing against a computer, and it's just too easy, There's a game I'm a big fan of. It's a game on a console. It's a zombie game. And the people on there always complain, it's too easy, it's too easy. And I'm like, they're playing at these insane difficulty levels. And it's like, you know what? When you get older, like say I'm old, I'm just saying older, work is kind of a bit of a challenge, okay? And those of you guys have been sitting in the bottom of your mom's basement not doing a damn thing, maybe you need a huge challenge, but the rest of us just want to have a good time. I mean, yeah, we don't want a pushover game, but you can't have everything being a problem all the time, I don't mind games being challenged. I just don't like being rushed. So anything that's like, hurry, go over here. All right, now hurry, go over here. Hurry, geez, give me a second to take a breath. If it doesn't do that to give me a second to take a breath, I want no part of it. It's too much for me. It's too much like a work day. We're gonna have to put some water in this. I'll be right back. real-time strategies started coming out in the mid-90s, Warcraft and stuff like that. Go over here and chop these trees down, and then you go out and put a fire out. Come back and they've chopped the whole damn forest down, and now they've invaded. Now the attackers have invaded through a place because you've got no defenses. And when you have to do shit like that in real life, like you're always putting out fires, you don't want to do that when you come home. Okay, you don't want everything to be a problem. You need some competency below you. You need some teamwork. I'm the same boat. It's pretty much vis-a-vis complex games at this point. And what I really don't have time for is I don't have time for games that are counter games, okay? Like, what's the name of that? Well, they still make all these counter games that we used to play, the old SPI games. I didn't play any SPI games. I'm a little too young for that. SPI was already out of business by the time I started wargaming. Close, but still, they were out of business. So, but the Avalon Hill and that kind of stuff, games, they just take too long to set up. I don't care that they take a long time to play because you don't have to play them all in one sitting, but the computer is really well suited for that because you could start a scenario wherever you want. They can still have counters on them. I'm not opposed to playing games that have counters on them. I'm just opposed to, learning all these complicated rules and then you're playing the game wrong and it takes you 3 hours to set the game up and you need to put it off to the side. Like, play it on computer, and it can be a counter game. I've got no problem with counter games as long as they look decent. There's ugly looking counter games that I have no interest in playing. But back to zoom out a little. Like this. All right. If somebody complains it's too far away, then you guys are gonna have to fight in the parking lot. Just so you know. Let's get these guys out of the way so we don't have a problem, and let's start doing some base color on these. This Middle Eastern flesh here. So yeah, I'm not opposed to playing counter games, but it needs to be done in a computer format for me. It's just I don't have time to set them up and that kind of stuff. And not every format works for everybody. There's a game that we used to play in the 90s. We used to play it double blind. It's technically it's a solitaire game by Avalon Hill called Patton's Best. And Patton's Best was where you basically were running a Sherman tank. And you had your crew and you had to make different actions and stuff like that. You had to decide when to unbutton, when to spot targets, when to button up, change ammo, reload the gun. Sounds complicated. It really wasn't. And we would take turns playing the Sherman crew, and the other people would move, the Germans around, because you could only play one of Patton's tanks. I think 4th Armored Division. Okay, and there's a computer game that came very retro-ish, very retro. It's called Armored Commander 2. There was an earlier version of it. I wasn't aware of it. And it is exactly like Patton's Best. Now, some people don't like the game because it looks very retro. It looks like graphics would look like in, say, maybe 1988. It's EGA graphics, but, it's MIDI sounds and things like that. But the gameplay is solid. So, that cured me of ever playing Patton's Best, where I could just play against the computer, and I need to play that double blind with Mitch. I think Mitch would enjoy that game, but That's a pretty cool game. So it's a a board game turned into a computer, just for ease of play. And it's really nice to not be able to play the game incorrectly. Now, some cheaters out there may hate that because they want to cheat, but I want to play the game correctly. How complex are GMT games? Sometimes they're all over the place. I don't mind games being complicated. I just don't want to be playing them accidentally wrong. Where am I at? I've got the fast blades over here drying on the basing material. We got some camels that are painted black. And this is the solid auxilia. We got the solid auxilia to do, and one chariot and 1 week to do them in. I don't know if I'm going to make it. We're going to get close. We're going to give it a good English try. Do they have those in Australia, or those are just the old country? That's what we got left to do, so we'll see how it pans out. I'm not worried about it. Once these guys are done, we'll be basing the fast blade in the morning, doing the base color. I've already got 4 elements. This is 5. That'll be 3 left over. So, and I've got solid hordes to do, but I'm not gonna get them done for this show. Not because I have anything against solid hordes, just we're out of time. So, and that's with me being a lot more diligent than I've ever been. I've definitely gotten more painting done in the last 2 years than I've ever gotten done. And that's a good thing. So, but that's not necessarily the pandemic for me. It's the, hey, I'll film all my paintings so I stay on track. That's really been the thing that's helped me kind of turn the corner on everything. I'm doing this instead of playing the Battletech game, for one. We have a fair crack. Aha. Give it a fair crack. I'm optimistic. There'll be no gaming on Monday. There could be. Decided not to. And I skipped basically a month of gaming with Mitch, just so I'd take all that time to paint. Otherwise, I'd be even farther behind. We'll get there. We're going to give it a shot. We're going to give it a shot. All right, now before we get to this core color here, before we get to that proper, which we're not going to get to that, we're going to stop short. We're going to leave it with some black inside of it. Just it gives that little bit of a darker tone. The 4X are optional or compulsory. I've got to either do solid ox, fast ox, or solid horde, I believe. So I don't have any of the fast ox figures, so they're out. I do have solid horde, but that's even more guys to paint. And I need to paint these guys. It was the whole reason I built this army was I like the look of this particular figure. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right, let's add the sunny skin tone to these guys. Could almost make a case for painting eyes on these guys. They're almost defined there. I just don't want to get into that if I don't need to. I'm not opposed to it. It doesn't look right. It's always going to be out of over scale. Always going to be over scale a little bit. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a night. We got the camels done. We got to be up in about 6 hours. Seems like it. So we the Papal Army players have been playing already. I've already played 8 games with them. Yeah, they're in 2 videos. Yep. I did 2 videos on my channel. The first one is called I forget what it's called. One of them is called the Blind General, Blind Faith. So that's for the Pope's enemies with and everybody playing with the Blind General rules, which of course is you do not know how many pips you rolled until you try to use them. And I forget what the other one's called. But yeah, they're on there. Yep, 8 games with them. So definitely a wacky army. It is definitely different. It played totally different than I thought it was going to. It's extremely... Holy smoke. There it is. That's what it is. Holy smoke. Yeah. Or holy smokes. One of those. I forget which one it is. Hopefully it's holy smokes, because that's what the saying is. But anyhow, the army played totally different than I expected it. I was expecting litters to be really weak, and they're not. They're super solid. They're weird in that they can't go into combat, but when people fight litters, you just end up, by the end of the 8th battle, people just avoided where the litter was. They're just like, I don't want to mess with that guy. He's going to tie me up. You know? They're really effective against knights, I think, because they perform like a blade stand, which would normally be quick killed by a knight, but they've got to be doubled to be killed by anybody. Other than foot will kill them on a tie if 2 of their sides are in close combat. So if they're surrounded on 2 sides and they roll a tie, the litter pops. Other than that, you've got to double them. And the litter, being a blade general, is going to be a 6 versus foot. So you still got to roll really good. And but they still maintain their quick kill on knights on the tie against the knight. So they're really brutal. And the knight's got to double the litter. The knight loses his quick kill against the litter. So they're really, really a tough stand. I kind of regretted putting only 7 or 8 guys on this stand. The way they fight, I should put like 12. They're really, really a tough stand, but they can't move into close combat with anybody. So it's just really weird. It's a very strange army to play. And that's good, because that's the whole reason I built them, is because I wanted an army that played different from any of the other ones that I had. If you keep building these same armies that have, 4 heavy foot and 4 shooters and 4 mounted units, and they're all the same, then, why am I painting all these other armies if they're going to end up playing very similarly? So, anyhow, yeah, check them out. They're cool. They're definitely wacky, and had some pretty interesting games with them. They definitely play differently than most people were expecting, so, including myself. But anyways, thanks for stopping by, folks. We'll see you guys in a few hours. And hopefully the internet will behave like it's behaved tonight, which is, worked really well once we got that microphone bit taken care of. But anyhow, we will see you guys tomorrow morning and on Saturday. See you later, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.